Hello and welcome back to Rage Gaming and a new first impressions look video. Today we're talking about the new Star Ocean game, The Divine Force, which is a new JRPG set in a sort of sci-fi fantasy mix of both world and story. Now we've covered a few JRPGs on the channel so far, and when we were approached to check out the game and talk about it, this seemed like a nice fit. So a big thank you to TriAce and Square Enix for sponsoring this video, and on that note, if you do want to try the game yourself, be sure to use our link in the description, which will really help us out. As a sponsor, they've essentially just asked us to check out the game and talk about it, make a video, so that's what we're going to do. Let's begin with the history of the series. Star Ocean, as I mentioned, is a long-running JRPG series, which is known for being one of the first action RPGs to alter the storylines, outcome through player action and choice. All the way back in 1996, Square Enix published the first game, Star Ocean, and since then there's been many Star Ocean games over the following 2 decades. However, it's actually been a while since the last release. Divine Force is the first Star Ocean game in 6 years, so fans of the series I'm sure have been very excited for this new release. But now let's talk about Divine Force. This sci-fi fantasy world has you travel from planet to planet following the main story of the 2 protagonists. It's 2 stories that are interwoven, told from the perspective of one of the 2 characters you pick between. It features these large open environments to explore using your very cool semi-flight movement and those sudden action combat situations, be it small scale, group battles or the big boss fights. In that we use a party system that allows character swapping to control each member of your party individually, maximizing their use and overseeing the fights from various perspectives. So classic JRPG in a unique world and setting with an interesting style of storytelling based on those 2 protagonists. But let's talk about that story. When we begin the game, we're able to pick between 2 main characters to play and then follow their half of the story. These characters are the space merchant Raymond or the princess Letitia. Now while the overarching story is well connected, the 2 characters seem to have their own sections separate from one another. So the first playthrough will give you a different picture and perspective than the second on the other character. But their stories are obviously connected, and the story opens with both of them immediately. From the perspective of Letitia, she is traveling and suddenly a mysterious man falls from the sky using strange advanced technology. However, if you're like me and pick Raymond to play first, the introduction's totally different. You and your ship are suddenly assaulted by a silent Federation ship, forcing you to abandon ship and evacuate. Raymond thankfully survives in an escape pod, which crash lands on what is described as an underdeveloped planet. A sort of clever nod to the fact that they're more fantasy in their setting. In this, Raymond is separated from another survivor, so logically he wants to find that crew member. But either way, the result is the same, right? You end up together, working together, following the same main story. But the setup and perspective is what's super different. It's like the sci-fi is Raymond and fantasy is Letitia. But despite their clear differences, the pair will team up, and that's where the story really gets going. I like the concept though. Depending on who you play, it really changes how you view it all and the context you're given for that. And the idea that there's futuristic worlds and technology existing while underdeveloped planets are just left to fall behind. But now let's talk combat, which can happen while you're exploring the game or following the story itself. These are real-time battles tied to your multi-character party, which you swap between fairly consistently, micromanaging a fight from many angles. That lets you use all the different resources, special abilities and playstyles of the different party members you have. Your offensive abilities are tied to your AP resource, which encourages that player swapping to maximize that use. We begin with 3 different unique attacks per character, costing less or more AP depending on its strength. These special attacks aren't just one and done though, they're best used in combo with one another, and each character comes with their own weapon type to use, like the 2-handed sword that Raymond's using or the dual-wielded straight swords that Letitia's using. But as we progress the game, you will increase the size of your party, you'll get more characters, different playstyles, and different skills to unlock. Of course, in combat there's defense options like evasion, perfectly timed evasion, boosts with your mini flight abilities, or using shields to mitigate damage. Speaking of which, Duma, or DUMA, is the advanced technology you use to fly about and use those special attacks. That floating AI sort of ball will jump between the characters you're currently focused on and enhance them. Coming with its own gauge to manage, you spend those resources to perform the mini flight attacks, which are super strong. You can upgrade these separately, and I'll mention that in a moment. Duma's gauge is called the VA gauge though, and you can restore that by attacking or perfectly timing an evade to begin with. So the more effective you are, the better you are in combat, the more you have access to the stronger abilities. Then, depending on where you are in the game, you have a variety of enemies contextual to the location. So we start with like giant frogs, living plants, mushrooms, zombies, and bandits. And then we progress and fight chimeras and more other strange creatures. There are also proper boss fights though, and in those boss fights you can target individual body parts and try to focus them down as they are weaker than other parts. Best shown in the first boss fight where you're using Duma to fly up high and target the small little enemy that's controlling the big robot that is the boss. Lastly, a vital part of the combat is going to be stop mode, where you press select and that sort of pauses or slows down time, allowing you to manage some combat strategies for the characters you're not currently using, or use items such as healing and revives. All of that's very important, but let's now talk about actual progression of the characters and the abilities. Mainly tied to skill trees, these are massive and each character has their own one. So as you play with those characters, you earn XP, you level up, and then of course you progress those skill trees. They're mainly nodes that come with passive benefits, but those go to new combos and special attacks as big, proper upgrades. The more you commit to one character or one specific team, the higher level and stronger they're going to get, and that makes a real difference. And of course, there's upgrading of Duma, as I mentioned. You can improve its movement and its abilities too. And exploration is actually tied to how you improve that. See, while you're in the free movement around the world, you can just constantly zip around using the Duma dash in any aimable direction. And then while in the air, you can glide slowly down. This mobility is insane and allows for some really fun movement around the environments. So the devs have hidden all those collectibles and those upgrade resources in really interesting or harder to reach areas, encouraging you to go crazy with the Duma movement. On that note, I just want to acknowledge the difference in the environments you're actually playing and exploring. Whether it's daytime, nighttime, the evening, the visuals really change, but then the areas do too, like what plant life's there, whether you're in sort of a rocky mining area. The major difference even between the first and second village is huge. And it's all happening on the sort of beginning opening planet, which is meant to be underdeveloped and, you know, kind of one theme. So the variety even there was really nice to see, making each area that you're playing in and progressing through feel a lot different to the previous one, which I really appreciated. It makes me excited and wonder, like, when you actually go back into space, what's going to be out there and what kind of environments you're going to get to play in. And of course, there's other standard progression like your armor, what weapons you're using, accessories, and also crafting unlocked a little bit later on as well. Finally, for some extra details that I'm sure will come up, let's mention playtime. From some research, it looks like average playtimes for the main content is a good 40 hours over that, or up to 100 plus hours if you're engaging with all of the side content of the game. On the other hand, for the platforms of Divine Force, it's current gen consoles and PC, meaning Windows PC, PlayStation 4 and 5, and of course Xbox One and Series X and S. So, in conclusion, from my first impressions of Star Ocean, we have a heavy focus on a character-driven story with those interwoven perspectives of the two main characters. In general, I found the characters a bit stand out. There's a lot of those little quips and interactions and conversations that feel very well written and very well voiced. After finding games these days that conversations are very strange, one character says their line, one character says their line, one character says their line, and so on, I really like that there's people speaking over each other in this game, not in an invasive way, but in a realistic way. So yeah, I think the voice actors do a very good job in this. The characters themselves are interesting and engaging, and I really like this mix of futuristic and fantasy and the overlap that ensues because of that. Raymond has this really casual, up-to-date current vocabulary, while Letitia and Alabad, they're more medieval fantasy and just like blown away by the technology that he has and is using.
So if we provide it with more of this juice, theoretically, would we be able to pilot it?
Aren't you a curious one? Computer, get me a read on that craft. Was it from the Yeetus? Who's on it?
Readings indicate the pod was also ejected from the Aegis. No passenger signal detected.
Is there a town or something in that direction? Not a town, no.
Astonishing.
Only the Medum ruins.
Albert, you must see this.
Highness.
They're obviously just having fun with this dialogue and this juxtaposition between the two characters and their personal experiences. And also that open world style exploration is really cool. Duma letting you fly around like crazy. And the devs just encouraging that exploration by hiding all of the important rewards in really weird spots. So honestly, it's been a fun game to look at, and that's what I always hope for with a first impression sponsor like this. So once again, if you want to check the game out for yourself, please use our link in the description so they know we sent you. It will really help us out. For now though, I've been Hollow, you've been you. Thank you very much for watching. We'll see you next time.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.